All right, so today's project is going to be adding shelving and railing to our walk-in closet. So right now we have this unit here that we purchased online from Wayfair. It was like $150, $200. It came with some adjustable rails that will come in here. Problem is that the minimum length of the rails was bigger than the 25-inch gap that we have here. So I've decided what we're going to do is, let me turn this around. I'm going to build a shelf that'll come all the way over here. It's gonna come all the way across this full 6-foot gap. My wife also wants a shelf above the door, so I'm actually going to take my lovely laser level we have up there. I'm going to get the level to be, the bottom of it to be right here, flush with the top of the door. I'm gonna sand down the top of the door. We're gonna mount the wood on here, add supports to each side. Then at that same height, I'm gonna continue our first shelf across here. Once that shelf is made, then we'll make a second shelf towards the bottom. So we'll have one shelf up here with then a metal rod for hanging, and then we'll do another shelf down here with a metal rod for hanging. The materials I'm using for today's video, these are going to be some of my supports. So everything is going to be mounted here with toggle bolts, securing it into the drywall and hopefully the metal studs. I need to get my magnets out to find out where the metal studs are in this wall. And then let me show you the rest of the materials we're working with today. So heading out of our master bedroom here into the garage. All right, so what we've got here is I've got 6-foot metal rods that we're using for the actual hangers. These are the Lowe's heavy duty ones. They're rated for 33 pounds per foot, so I think these will hold nicely. Then I've got 1 by 12 boards. I went ahead and just did the S4S already primed and finished boards. It's going to save me a lot of work on having to plane it myself and do the finishing, and also my wife is most likely to paint these whatever color she wants, so this all in all just makes my life easier. And then here we've got 1 by 2s. I'm going to be using this all the way across the board to give it a more uniform look, similar to what we did in the pantry. And then just as an added reinforcement, I went ahead and purchased just 2 brackets. I am fairly confident on the support system of having this going across the length of the boards, but I wanted to get something to put in the middle just for a little bit of added support for the metal dowels. Then each of the metal dowels will also be attached. I went with wooden closet, I don't know, bar holders, whatever you want to call them. Went with these just because with these I can use toggle bolts, while most of the other ones that were metal just had like 4 tiny little screws. This way I can put my 1/4-inch bolts in here and have those very secure against the wall, so they will hold much more weight. I'm not planning on putting a ton of weight on here, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So let's get into it. Okay, so I just did some measuring. We're gonna have a 35-inch board here, and then we're gonna do 2 12-inch runners. These are what's gonna be holding the board, that and this ledge right here. I went ahead and took a chisel to the top and just made sure that this is all nice and flat. I still might sand it a little bit just to get it a little bit flatter. but this this door frame is not level. So this will be slightly off-centered, but I think if I line it up to the edges of the board and square everything up, we should be good to go on this. So let's go out into the garage and get the first board cut. All right, so we've got our board cut to exactly 35 inches. I've already got the holders cut from a previous build I was doing, so we're just gonna reuse those. Let's go into the other room and start getting this thing put together. Okay, so the way I like to do this is I like to take a piece of tape here, and I've got my level already set up, so this is gonna be my line. I'm really gonna base it off of this just because the door frame is slightly uneven. Let's see if I can get a better angle of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just take a piece of masking tape. I'm gonna square that up as best as I can by eyeballing it. I'm gonna move it just a little bit out. And I can just see the laser on the tip of here. So we're just gonna throw a little bit of masking tape on here. Just get it so that this is gonna stay kind of level. I also always like to double check my work. So we'll just take this right here. And yep, that is level. So. All right, I'm gonna do the same for the next side. We're just gonna just take a piece of tape, put it right along here like that, and then we're just using this just so that I could, you know, kind of stick it on the wall and get it to a point where I want it, so it's gonna be easier. Last time I was doing this, it was extremely difficult. Because I was working with toggle bolts, and I will show you what those entail in a second, but they are not the easiest thing in the world to work with. So this one might be slightly higher due to the fact that the door itself is not level. So as you can see, this one's a little bit higher, but I'm trying to make sure that that stays up there. I'm giving myself a little wiggle room to make sure I can make some adjustments while I level this out. So let's take a quick look here. Make sure it's level at this corner. And that can go up a little bit. Nope. Right there. So let's get that tape on there good. And then just as a litmus test, let's try to put that board up there. This is gonna be what it will eventually look like. Okay, so good thing I did this because these are way too far out. So I'm gonna have to back these up and put these all the way against the door frame. That is why you always measure twice. All right, I'm gonna throw this in the time lapse for now. So I'm not gonna be explaining a bunch of stuff after this, but you guys can sit here and enjoy. Okay, so I lied saying I was going to just set this to time lapse. So what I'm going to be using to secure these today are called toggle bolts. They're little tiny things that you slide in to the drywall, you pull them back out like this, and then this zips all the way in. You rip these two off, and then you're able to just place a bolt all the way in there. The reason I'm doing this instead of just drywall screws or mounting directly into the wooden stud is because I don't have wooden studs. So when we bought this house, I did not realize that this is all steel stud. So I'm gonna try to see if we can get into the steel stud here. If I can get onto the metal, it would give me a much stronger hold. But these toggle bolts are rated for 185 pounds in drywall. So extremely strong. Sometimes they're a pain. They're a bit expensive as well. But for the peace of mind, they're well worth the money. So I'm gonna go ahead, what I'm gonna do is, because I mounted these like this, I'm gonna drill 1/4-inch pilot holes for the bolts themselves, all the way through the wood and into the drywall. Once I'm finished with that, I'm actually going to take these down. I'm then going to use my 1/2-inch drill bit right here, and we're gonna go all the way through the drywall. That gives me enough room to get this through that hole, put it through, re-secure it, and then we'll put these back on and mount them. So we were extremely lucky here. Well, maybe not lucky, but whoever built this wasn't dumb. But anyways, we were able to hit steel studs on both of our holes. So I'm assuming we're gonna hit both over here as well. So this will help the toggle bolts stay much stronger, and this, I could probably do pull-ups on this thing. Like this is gonna be in here good. So, all right, let's get back into it. All right, as you guys probably just saw, the one of those holes didn't come out perfect. Looks like when I was drilling into the metal, the stud just kind of popped off to the side. So I just made another hole. Just gonna double check everything, make sure that we're still level. Might need to shim up that side a little bit. And this side is perfect, so. All right, let's set the board up there and see how it looks. Let's see. I'm gonna put this side up. So we're just gonna set this up here, and there you go. All right, so some little tiny gaps here. Let's take a look. But overall, I'm going to take my brad nailer and go ahead and nail these down into the supports here. I may have to shim up that side a little bit, as it is a little off, but let's take the level and see where the shelf is overall. Yep, I'd say that's it could probably go up a tiny bit on this side. Yep, that's just where my shim needs to go. But we can shim that up and... All right, so I've got that edge trimmed. We're gonna go ahead and take my handy brad nailer here, and we're gonna go ahead and nail these down onto here. All right, well, this looks top shelf. I don't think we're putting any tequila or vodka or anything up here. But anyways, the top shelf above the bedroom master closet door is finished. You know, this is a very cheap DIY you know, way of installing shelving. You know, does it look the best? No, but is it functional and will it work for me? Absolutely. So, but here is the final result. So my wife is most likely gonna paint it some color, so this will look a lot different. But overall, I'm very happy with how it turned out. Right now, I'm gonna measure so that this length right here is the same there, and I'm gonna put the next shelf along the ceiling to be the same, because eventually I do want to take the shelf all the way out from here and then extend it all the way out to here and then maybe kind of tie it in. That part is gonna be fun, trying to get that angle and then match it up and then make sure it's all supported. But that might be a later project and not a today project. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and measure all of this. I'm gonna get to the laser leveled put there. I'm gonna put up the mounting strip that I'm gonna use here. For this one, I think I'm gonna do it all the way across. But stay tuned. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do here is, because these are longer shelves, I do want these to be more secure. So I wanna make sure that I'm on the steel studs here. So what I have here are some Neo magnets. They've been heavily used and broken, but magnets are magnets, they'll still work. So we're gonna map out where all the studs are on this wall. I'm gonna measure out everything. We're gonna cut the supporting strip and then mount everything onto the steel studs. So let's get to it. All right, we're back in the garage. We're gonna go ahead and cut down these two slats. I'm probably gonna do both of them together, just because they both need to be 62 inches long. So, actually, scratch that. I'm doing them one at a time. I can just see one of them just shooting off while I'm trying to cut the other one. So, I'm gonna get these cut up, and one thing I am going to try with this is, since we mapped out where the steel studs are going to be at, I'm still going to take this up, tape it up to the wall, get it nice and level, and drill the pilot holes. Once I'm done with the pilot holes, I'm actually going to let's see if I can open stuff up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Mortensen bit for my router, and I'm actually going to cut a little hole into that pilot hole, and I want it to be just about the width and the depth of the head of the toggle bolts. So once I'm finished and I've got everything up, the toggle bolts should be flush underneath the wood. And then once I've got everything finished and primed and everything, looking all nice and neat, I'm gonna take a thing of wood filler and fill it in so you don't even see the bolts. And then we'll sand over that, prime it, paint it, everything, so that it looks like it's just a strip of wood. It doesn't look like, you know, flathead Phillips bolts are holding this thing together. So make it look a little nicer, you know, but it is for my closet at home, so the only people who will be seeing it will be me and my wife and all of YouTube. So for the 2 viewers who are watching this video, if you ever come over to my house, just ask, hey, let me see that closet. And then I'll look at you weird and say no. Okay, so we're back in the closet. No comment. And we're going to, I've got the laser set up, so this is where I want the top of the spacer to be. So I'm gonna put this up, tape it up there just like I did the last one. We're gonna mark off holes where all of these steel studs should be, and then we're gonna mark an additional hole right in the middle. This hole will also be used as support. This is where the middle rod holder will be. What I'm gonna do for that is I'm gonna put the rod holder here, and then I'm gonna mount another piece of wood, preferably one without holes and nails in it already. Mount that right here, and then we'll screw in the rod holder here and here and attach that to the wall, and then, well, attach it to here and here for support, and then so it's nailed to here, here, and on the board itself. So that'll give it even more support for holding up that rod. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape this to the wall and put it up on time lapse and get both the top and bottom ones lined up and set to go. Let's get to it. All right, so we're back in the garage. I finished drilling all the pilot holes on the wood strip here that we're gonna be using for mounting. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my router here. I've got a 1/4 inch mortising bit put in right there that should be the same width and height as the bolt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take this, I'm gonna drill down in the holes I've already made here, make the hole just a tiny bit wider, so that the head of the bolt sinks into the wood. So not 100% sure how this will turn out. It's my first time doing this, but let's get to it. All right, so first one done. Didn't come out perfect, but as you can see, I've got the bolt in here. The head sits completely flat. So as soon as I'm done doing the rest of these, we'll put it up and see how it goes. All right, so like usual, had issues with toggle bolts. One of them fell through, had to redo it. It happens. But I took the level up here, and everything looks pretty level. Going through here, that is pretty much dead center, and even going all the way over. And all the way back is looking good. So we're gonna go ahead and take some of our smaller pieces, and we're gonna go ahead and put them on the corners of each side. So like right here, and get that other edge set up. We'll also do another one right here to try and get that lined up with the center support that we're going to be putting for the bar. But then after that, we should be able to cut the actual shelf and mount that on there. So let's get to it. All right, so we're back out in the garage. We're going to go ahead and cut and measure the 72-inch board, get that put up. So let's get to it. All right, I don't know if it happened too quick on the last video for you to catch, but when I cut the last board, it looks like I was just like a 1/16 of an inch off. I thought I had accounted for the kerf, but I did not. And then I had to do a second cut just to take a tiny more bit off. But it is exactly 72 inches now and perfectly square. So let's get this into the other room and see if it fits. All right, well, looks like this is perfectly level. I'm gonna go ahead and brad nail everything down and get this set up. So let's get to it. All right, so now that we've got the board up there, I'm gonna go ahead and add the bracket here. I went ahead and cut out a special one just so that when it lines up, I don't know, it kind of looks a little nicer with that 45-degree angle rather than just being a square block. So we're gonna mount this right here. We're gonna take this screw out, put it right in here, and then we're gonna drill another hole to get another screw right in here. So let's get to it. All right, so we've got the bracket installed. Now we have the wooden holders for the pipe. So let's get this measured out and leveled, and then we'll have the top shelf complete. Then we'll just have to do the bottom shelf and then the rest, and yeah, so we're nowhere near finished, but we've made good progress. So let's get into it. I hope I just didn't do that last video backwards where I paused it right where I started, and I started by just walking away. So if you missed that whole entire spiel that I just did, what I'm gonna do is I just measured the pole and the wood blocks. I need to take 7/8 of an inch off of here. So instead of just doing a time lapse, I'm gonna kind of explain what I'm doing here because this is a little bit more complicated. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure out 7/8 on the pole here. And then I'm gonna tape off right at 7/8 and wrap it around. Because if I do that, that'll help me stay right where I need to in cutting this off. Cool. All right. Now for the really fun part. So, I don't know if I'm actually, oh, you didn't even see any of that I was doing. All right, so let's bring this down. Tripods, how do they work? More complicated than magnets, apparently. All right, so I've gone ahead and measured out 7/8 on here. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna find a metal blade on my hacksaw, and I'm gonna try and stay right off of that. The hardest part is making sure that this stays secure. So I'm gonna take some multiple clamps here and try to clamp this down to my miter saw table, or miter saw bench, whatever you want to call it. And let's see if I can still get my hacksaw into there safely. Safely is the key word here. I do not want to be losing any fingers. And I know my wife would appreciate that sentiment as well. So let's try to get that as tight as I can. And I'm gonna go find a hacksaw blade and we'll get to it. All right, so starting that off was pretty difficult, but that pole ended up cutting out. We're gonna go ahead and take some sandpaper to this, try to sand off this rough metal here, just because I know that if I don't, I will be bleeding all over this pipe later when I cut my hands on the shards of metal here. So we're just gonna sand this down real quick. Yep, and see, giant, that would have been inside my finger, guaranteed. All right, let's get into it. All right, so since we're going to be installing toggle bolts on the dowel holders, we do need to make these a 1/4 inch hole. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the drill press over here and get that done. All right, 1/4 inch holes have been drilled. So now we're gonna take these, drill the toggle holes, and get that pole mounted. All right, so I've got the dowels cut out and I've got everything measured. So now we just have to put it up on the wall, measure where I need to drill for the toggle bolts, and then get everything put together. So I just need to call my lovely assistant over and she'll help us out. All right, so with that, our first shelf is complete. Really happy with how it turned out. Can't wait to see what color my wife paints it. I could take another screw and drill a hole right here just for extra security, because it does spin right now, but I'm not gonna worry about that right this second. I'm gonna have to go back, I'm gonna put some wood filler in here and sand that out real quick. So I'm going to start with that. Once I do that, then I'm going to go ahead and start on the second one. So the second one, I think I've got the laser set up. I think we're going to do it at about this height. So the next shelf will be just above this line. This will be the line for the brace bar. And clothes typically hang about right here, so it'll give you just a little bit of a shelf right here. But I'm excited how that's going to turn out. So let's get to it. All right, so we've got the second board up. It is taped to the wall right now. So we're going to go ahead and let's see. we're gonna go ahead and drill, baby, drill. Where'd my, left my drill in the other room. But we're gonna use the 1/4 inch. I'm gonna go ahead and drill the same holes that I did up top, plus the middle hole here. And then this time I actually brought the router in here. So instead of taking the wood off of the wall and then redoing everything, I'm just gonna take my router and just put it right up against there and get the holes for the bolts drilled, so I can do the same thing up here. All right, let's get into it. All right, so that last part was taking way too long. I had a toggle bolt fail like 4 times in a row. So yeah, just what they say in that movie, Goose Fraba, anger management. Yeah. Anyways, we're cutting the last shelf. This needs to be at 72 inches. Once this is at 72 inches, we can put it in there. I am gonna have to trim the other pull down 7/8 of an inch and also drill out the dowel holder. But then after that, we are almost finished in the closet. So let's get to it. All right, so we ran into a few little problems, but they were easily fixed with the nail gun. The rod holder was a little high, so it was pushing everything else up, which was causing it to kind of bow. But after putting some pressure on it and getting everything squared in, it is looking really good. So everything's level. And it's level front to back and side to side. So we're looking good. Next thing, we'll have to cut down the second pole and add the 2 other dowels, and then we will be finished with this side of the closet. All right, so it looks like this is now finished. So we've got 3 wooden shelves. So up here, we've got our coat hanger. And then now we've got a second one down here with another coat hanger. And then we also have this storage up here above the door. So we're also gonna be adding hangers here and here, but that is gonna be a project for tomorrow. I am tired of seeing this closet right now. Even though I'm about to see it every single day for the rest of my life. But yeah, for today, I am done in here. All right, see you guys later. Bye.